Thought I'd do a quick update of this thing, of some of the changes I've done to it since I've kind of had it running and on the trail. Not that many big changes. I think surprisingly works better than I really even thought it would. Longer wheelbase, a little bit taller, big tire. Actually works really well. It was a lot of fun to wheel. Getting used to the wheelbase was a little bit different. My Blazer is like 109, 110 inch wheelbase, and it's 1 ton, so it steers really well. So it's actually relatively nimble for a full-size rig. This thing obviously being Rockwell's, so it doesn't steer as far, and longer wheelbase took a little bit to get used to. But once I did, it is a bunch of fun to wheel. So really the only changes that I made, so I finally put some bump stops on this. Those are DIY 4x adjustable weld-on bump stops with some just 4-inch, regular poly ones that you can buy. I don't even remember where I got the poly mounts, like Amazon or something like that. So the first time I really took it wheeling, like really took it out, I didn't have bump stops on yet, and I was like, ah, screw it, I'm still gonna go. And I came down crazy hard off of a rock, and I bottomed out the shock. It didn't break the shock, but it actually broke the upper, it didn't even break the upper mount, it sheared the bolts off that hold the upper mount on. And it was kind of crazy, because then when it did, it shoved the shock up into here, and it actually pinched one of my wires for that goes to my fuel pump, and that blew a fuse in my fuel injection kit. And I was kind of dead in the water for a little bit until I figured out what was going on. Luckily I had another fuse just laying around, popped the fuse in, taped up that, pulled the shock off, and wheeled the rest of the day. But I knew I needed to do bump stops, and I was like, oh, screw it, I'm still gonna go wheel it anyways. So after that I was like, okay, I need to do it. So got these on, kind of put them in, they work really well, they're really strong. I have these same ones on my Blazer. I also added some limit straps, as you can see, and mount right there on the axle. And then I actually used the old factory shock mount and did a bolt all the way through with a sleeve, so it's kind of dual shear up top here. And then it's, a 2-mount thing on the bottom, so it's dual shear all around. I was actually getting a lot more flex out of the front than I thought I was going to, considering these are lift 52-inch, they're 4-inch lift 52s, but it was still flexing like crazy. And so I was like, actually I could probably benefit so I don't break these things faster for some limit straps. So I threw some on. Now I feel like it's great. I still have a good amount of flex, but with the bump stop and then with the limit straps, it kind of has it perfect now. I was getting a little bit of, I got a little bit of axle wrap. I'm not gonna lie, I still have a little bit. When you have Rockwell's 47s and leaf springs, it's kind of almost impossible to get rid of it completely without linking it. But I actually had some degree shims on the front of this thing. That, coupled with I had the shock mount that was actually mounted right here on the top of the axle. And with how much axle wrap I was getting, I was like, well, I decided to take out the degree shims, and then I moved the lower mount to the back part of the axle to kind of give it a little bit of resistance on the axle, like on the back side of the axle, and that helped out quite a bit. I'm not gonna sit here and claim that I don't have any axle wrap in the front, but it's not anything to where it's gonna ruin U-joints or drive shaft or anything like that. And it seems to work pretty well now. It's manageable and doable. Let's see, interior is pretty much the same. I did have my little start button tried to go out on me last time I was snow wheeling. So luckily that panel I bought just takes like a standard push button. So I was able to buy a replacement one for like 10 bucks and put that on. So the big thing I just did is I added a bunch of panels to the back part of this. I wanted it to, I don't know, it looked a little too skeletonized for me back here. I mean, it's a Truggy, right? So that's naturally going to happen, but I was trying to think of a way to make it look a little bit more filled in and also have a little bit more usable space. So I mounted these totes in here. I just have some little D-rings kind of drilled and mounted. 2 totes, so I just keep fluids and tools and some spare parts and stuff in those. Obviously in front of that is the fuel cell. But I mean, even with this, it was like if I brought all my kids and my wife on the trail and we had like a cooler, it was a little bit irritating. I was throwing it either on the floor and my kids had to put their feet on it, or I put it on my wife's feet, and I was like, I need something else. So I decided I really wanted to fill in these kind of triangle sections right here, so that now I can like strap down a cooler right there, or gas can, something like that. I mean, this is a big block and that's a 20-gallon fuel cell. It does all right, but as you might imagine, if I do longer trips, it is very beneficial to have some extra gas if I'm going to be on one of them long trips. I did basically, when we went snow wheeling, I had to help a buddy. He broke, and so I had to tow him out. It took a lot longer than we thought, and like it felt like a half a mile from the trailers. I actually ran out of fuel, and luckily somebody had a couple gallons of fuel. So yeah, that was kind of another factor of why I wanted to do this. So, and then, you know, I feel like these panels that I made right here, it's just a bunch of tabs with inserts in them, so I can just run bolts through it that hold all of this on, just out of some, I believe I use 16 gauge stuff. So it's not too heavy, but strong enough to, you know, take a hit, or like these top parts to hold a cooler or something like that. I think it looks a lot better now. It looks more like, almost like a truck again. Just threw a bunch of the dumb stickers that I have from all of the parts that I bought from companies for this build. The other thing, so these rims, so they're recentered H1. So I bought 12 bolt H1s. I cut out the centers and then had some Rockwell centers to weld in there, but then I bought these rock rings, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm an idiot, and I bought them, I wasn't paying attention, and I bought them for 1 ton. So they were, if you go back and look at some of the videos, they were, the hole to like try and get, you know, a wrench or something in there to get the lug nuts was crazy tight because I bought them for 1 ton. And so that was a mistake on my part. And I was able to get a socket in there to get to the, I mean, obviously to get the tires on, but it sucked and it was irritating. And I didn't really have good access to the valve stem to be able to air up and air down tires. So I decided to just say, screw it, I'm just going to kind of cut them in a way that's easy and gives me better access to everything. So I just did this just with my grinder, just kind of cut them out. Now I have really good access to the lug nuts, I have really good access to the valve stem to be able to use my air down tool and to air up easier. Just everything about it is way easier now. So it's this thing is a bunch of freaking fun. I get a lot of looks on the trail. I get a lot of conversation. I understand that this thing doesn't perform like a moon buggy. I get it, but I really don't care. It's just so much fun to wheel. Something very different and unique than what you see on the trail. And it's just a bunch of fun. So that's really kind of the only changes that I've made. Not that many. Oh, I made that stupid little, I kind of filled this panel in, or this section with a panel, and painted it green as if it's a fender. Kind of dumb, but whatever. Kind of gives it a little bit cooler of a look. Does make it look a little bit like a fender. But that's the update on this thing. I plan on taking it out a few more times this year. Really, the only thing I think about that I might want to add, I mean, I have rock lights on this. I might get some of those LED whips and put them on the back just with some mounts so that when I go night wheeling, that I'll have some on the back with some lighting. But then if I'm not night wheeling, I can just unbolt them. I might do that. But other than that, this thing is a bunch of freaking fun.